Hello family. Today is a new day. My name is Marianne. Welcome to my channel. Make sure that you subscribe and like the video so you don't miss any video that I drop. I'm doing part 2 of a video I did. Last video I did was comparing life in Africa, Kenya specifically, compared to living in America. And I'm doing this for those who are preparing to go and relocate to Africa, especially the African diaspora living abroad. There is a massive awakening. People are starting to wake up, and a lot of our people, especially our melanated brothers and sisters, they're trying to get back to the motherland, and people are starting to get conscious about who they are. Most people are studying, and I'm part of the movement of finding out where our people went wrong, finding out our history. We all know that our history has been erased. So it's our responsibility to do our own research, because the media is not going to teach you who you are. Remember, the oppressor erased our history on purpose so they can control you. And the best way to control people is to erase their history. Start with their mindset. Make sure they forget who they are. Make sure they forget their history. Make sure they have no books, no literature to go back to. So we are digging further and going back to our history, finding out the books that we can have access to, and any living elders that are left that can teach us what they know. We also know that the education system is controlled. So the books that are available in our school system, colleges, are created by the curriculum of the oppressor. So our books are not being read in schools. In fact, most of our people, our writers, Clyde Addison, like so many of our people's books are not available in schools. They have tried to push them into schools, but you know how that goes. So it is our responsibility to educate ourselves. Nobody is going to do it for us. Remember, it starts with you. Everything is going to have to start with you. So I'm just going to drop a few differences and a few nuggets that anybody that is moving to Africa should know. We did know that a lot of people last year and the year before moved to Tanzania because during the mandates and during the lockdowns, Tanzania, as President Magufuli, was not having it. So he was open to people, moving in and living free of the controls of the first world. And a lot of people moved into Tanzania. Unfortunately, most people did not do their research, and they ended up not getting well prepared to stay. So they moved back. So we want to educate as many people as possible of how you can relocate back to Africa. Personally, I'm working on my way, and while I do, I also want to share information so that as many people know what they need to know before they move. For those who are moving to Tanzania, I recommend a YouTuber. Her name is Traveling Sister, Sister Sista. She's doing a good job. She's an African American that moved to Tanzania about 5 years ago and actually married a Tanzanian. They already have a baby. And she's doing consultations and sharing a lot of information that is really necessary for those who are traveling. So I would really recommend that you follow her channel. Another person I recommend is Go Black to Africa. Go Black to number 2, Africa. And he's also an African American that travels a lot, and he's visited several countries in Africa, and he does a review of the countries. The good thing about these two people is that they are not biased. They are going to tell you the good, the bad, and the indifferent. So you can make an informed decision based on these people. In Kenya, there is a lady, Dr. Mumbi. She does a spiritual channel, but she also does consultations for those who are moving to Africa. She used to live in America, but she moved to Africa over a decade ago. And she does have a network of people that you can use. And she does charge $50, I think, a month for her channel that allows you to have access to her network. You can follow her on her channel, listen and sample all her YouTube channels. Is free, of course. But if you want specific help, if you are ready to relocate, she can help you with her network. I'm not doing that full time. Right now, I'm just doing an expose of what you can expect and things to look forward to. Remember, I always tell people, listen to many people. There are some YouTubers that are just there for the likes, but listen to as many people as possible, and you will get a good idea of what most people are talking about, and you can compare notes. That way you don't fall into the trap of a YouTuber who is just giving information for the sake of likes. There is also another YouTuber. Her name is Miss Trudy, Trudi, and Wodemaya, Wodemaya. These people have been traveling in most African countries. Wodemaya has over 1 million followers now. He started doing promotion of the African countries. And the reason is because African has always been portrayed in a negative light. So he took it upon himself to do an exposure of Africa in a positive light and to tell the truth about what Africa really is, because the media is not doing us justice. They only show poverty, they only show animals and suffering. When you talk about Africa in the first world, most people just talk about, animals, asking me stupid questions such as, do you have lions running around the streets? Or do you sleep in houses? Or do you have TVs? They don't have a clue, because that is what they have been educated to believe. So Wodemaya did a good job trying to encourage other YouTubers to do the same. And since he started doing this, I think it was about 2014 or something, he's done it for years. He has encouraged a lot of people to start YouTube channels and expose Africa in a positive light. So those are several YouTubers that I would recommend. There's also, if you are specific about Kenya, there's a YouTuber, his channel is African Traveler, and he does expose Kenya, and he does drone shots of different cities and different, apartments, if you're looking for housing, food, culture, and what have you. So those are good people to follow. There is no one YouTuber that can give you everything you need. Absolutely not. There is no way to cover everything. So you have to just sample depending on the kind of topic that you are looking for. Then I would recommend those people. So before you go, always do your research. Do a lot of research. Find out what is it that you like. The one thing that I would say is, most people don't even have a clue where to start. The best way to start is to know exactly what you're looking for. If you want to know exactly where you came from, I've talked about AfricanAncestry.com. They do a DNA test to let you know what countries your ancestors came from. And the good thing about AfricanAncestry.com is that they give you a specific origin of your people. So they will specify the region you came from. And they also have programs where they help you relocate back to your ancestry to get a name change if you are interested. And they have partnered with ADDI, which is African Diaspora Organization, headed by Dr. Kwao, Chihombori Kwao. And last year they did travel. They did travel to Ghana, where most people went to visit the castles, or the place where our ancestors were shipped as slaves. And they visited those, and they also had a connection with the regions and the chiefs where your DNA comes from. and they did do a name change ceremony. So it's very, very extensive. You can find out more information of ADDI on their website, ouraddi.org. So I would recommend that you do your research, find out where you're interested in. It's not possible to travel to all countries to find out which one you like. There is no way. It's so expensive unless you have a lot of money in your wallet to use. So it's if you are interested in East Africa, we have Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. If you are interested in the West Africa, where most African Americans originated from, obviously you can do a DNA, and then you can be connected to your ancestry. If that is not a big concern for you, then find out, do you like South Africa? Is it North Africa, East or West? So it's up to you to decide where you want to go. Obviously, each country has both positives and both negatives. So it's up to you. So do your research. So if you're coming, if you're relocating, we've always talked about having a plan where you have passive income coming in. Don't go to Africa looking for a job, because we all know there's not enough jobs for everyone. So if you have a business or you have income that is already coming in, then you're all set to go. But don't go there on a small budget expecting to live off a job that you're going to find in Africa. That's not practical. Also, when you go, if you want to live a lifestyle of a tourist, it's going to be very expensive. Remember, especially I'm talking from experience being a Kenyan, there's a cost for residents and there's always a cost for non-residents. Non-residents are charged higher for everything, for hotels, for, if you're going out, people might take advantage of you because they think you have a lot of money. So it's always advisable to stay low key if you're on a low budget, or to get people who can advise you or to direct you on cost-effective ways of living or touring. Because we have very, very expensive tourist attraction prices. We have middle budget, we have low budget, and we have local resident prices. So if you are lucky and you hook up with somebody from the area, they can go ahead of you and get you resident cost or prices. So that is something that you need to do. You really need to have somebody on the ground. It's not very recommended to go blindly. It's not. If you adopt a local lifestyle, things are gonna be very cheap. The cost of living in Africa is very low. But as I said, if you want to eat and live the lifestyle of being abroad, it's gonna cost you, and you run out of money. Our food, if I can compare, most of the food in Africa, Kenya, is organic. So the food tastes better, and it maybe for some people it might take some time to adjust to the taste, but it's usually less processed. So it is coming from the farm to the plate. So it might take some adjusting too, but I would just say it's healthier. So most people don't recommend that you go on a student visa to Africa, just because it's very limited. So tourist visa would be better off, and you will find advice from the people that I just mentioned above, that can give you advice on how they made it, because they've already done it, right? You always want to talk to somebody who has already done what you have, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just know that the concept of time in Africa is slow. People are never in a hurry, which is a big disadvantage, and I wish that our Africans brothers and sisters can change, because that slows us down. Somebody tells you to meet at noon, they show up at 4 or 3. It's just not it's not funny. We waste a lot of time waiting on others and waiting to get started. If a function is supposed to start at noon, you find that it's starting at 4. It is just not something we need to change. It's something that we need to change. And for those who are traveling, just know that. And you may have to help us with, being strict on keep your time and let the people know, if you don't show up, I'm going to leave. So a lot of people have also shared that when they went to Africa, people don't tell you the truth about everything. For example, maybe your car broke down and a mechanic tells you, I'll be able to fix it. Sometimes they're not truthful. And some people explain it to that, people are not comfortable telling you no, because they don't want to disappoint you. So sometimes you have to be firm and just insist. If you can't fix it, let me know. It won't hurt my feelings. And sometimes that is how it comes across. Or somebody says, I'll come for your birthday, but they really know they're not coming. So I wish our people could change that, because it's not, some people from abroad, are literal. If you say yes, it means yes. If you say no, it means no. If you're not coming, just say, I'm not coming. But our people don't want to hurt your feelings, so they say, I'll show up tomorrow, but they won't come. One thing about us, we are a very friendly society, very interconnected. And that is something that is cultural and is something that is African. For example, when you have a wedding, if you have a wedding in a certain village, everybody's welcome. You don't have to limit, who comes and who doesn't come. When you have a wedding, you expect the whole village to show up, and you also expect people to help in the process. So if you have a church, for example, the weddings are announced inside the church. They say on a certain day we have a wedding of so and so and so, or whatever, and they expect that everybody shows up. So don't expect that a card is going to be dispensed to everybody. And in fact, if you don't show up, it doesn't reflect good on you, because it looks like you are abandoning or avoiding to attend a certain wedding or a funeral. So things like that are a communal events. So small parties like birthday parties, that's a different story. That's a family event. But weddings and funerals and fundraisings, those things are communal. So I found it very surprising over here in America when for a wedding you have to be invited to go. You don't just show up. You don't just get crushed. Or even a funeral. A funeral, you don't just show up to anybody's funeral. So that was kind of a culture shock for me, because back home we don't invite people to funerals. Everybody shows up and is expected to show up. So that was a culture shock for me. And then back home, in Kenya, for example, and I'm sure this is Africa, in all of Africa, people can just knock on your door and show up and visit. I was just passing by, so I decided to say hi. That is common, and it's okay. But here in America, you don't just go and knock on people's doors expecting to visit. No, we don't do that here. So, but in Africa, people can show up at your door unannounced, and have a meal. And in fact, you're expected to eat. When you go up to visit somebody, it's customary that somebody is going to offer you something to drink or eat. So that is how we receive our visitors, as soon as a visitor shows up, there's a pot going for tea or coffee. We don't drink as much coffee. It's mainly tea. And if it is lunchtime or dinner time, you're expected to give the guest a meal. So it is rude not to give a meal, and it is rude to refuse a meal. So if you go to a home and you are full and you don't want to eat, just ask for a glass of water. It's like customary to be fed and to receive. So that is how we are back home. We are very friendly, very giving and receiving community. So that is how it is. So when you go to Africa, expect that you will get food when you show up, and you will get a drink when you show up. If you are allergic to any food, by the way, just make sure to say, to tell the host that you're allergic to maybe peanuts, milk, or whatever, and then just ask for water if you don't want to eat. And actually, once a guest comes and it's late at night, and they have to spend the night, you prepare a place for them to sleep. Remember, we didn't have phones in the past, right? So the concept of calling ahead to tell people you're coming, did not work. We didn't have phones, and phones just came the other day. So it is not unusual that people will show up. So I think this is something that we borrowed from the past and we are still doing. Some people in the big cities are changing, they have gated housing and compounds. There's no way you can just come and show up. So because they have security, they have a gated community. So you don't just show up in the city. But in the village, we are all family. We are all family. One thing about our people or Africa is that the personal space is very small, okay? And when I came over here in America, I found that people have a very big personal space. You don't invade their personal space, So that is very different, and sometimes people see as if it's rude because of our culture, when you invade their personal space. But back home, you find that people hug, people, touch, people hold your shoulders when talking. So our personal spaces are very small. And also in public transport, the vehicles are squeezed. There's a lot of people they have to transport within a small space. So you have to share the space. So we kind of got used to it, and it's fine. But over here, people have a very big personal space. You don't just invade their personal space. If you're sitting, you have to be conscious about how much space you leave between you and the next person. If you're coming to get something, you have to, excuse yourself and, don't just reach out and get it. So that is something that is different. So for African Americans, when you go back to Africa, just have that in mind. It's not that people are trying to be rude, it's just a culture. People are used to being in small spaces, and they are used to being okay with it, And when we are greeting, it takes time. When people greet, they take their time. So, and it's rude not to greet people. So when you meet somebody, you have to say hi. It's rude not to say hi. So it's very common for people to say just hi or to shake hands. Shaking hands is very common. Most people, women especially, will hug customarily. You will see their greeting. It's really interesting. Men have started hugging. They have their way of hugging. And it takes the people take their time to say hello, find out how people are doing back home. It takes a minute. So if you're in a hurry, so you'll have to slow down when you come to Africa. And the thing about personal space is, I would say that in Africa, people are not over-sexualized about, people's spaces. So somebody might be laughing and put their arm maybe on your thigh or on your shoulder, or even hit you. We are not over-sexualized. So that is very different. So when you go back to Africa, you will see that happening. People might be, shouting or talking to each other. I mean, they're just having fun. So you might be alarmed and say, wow, are they arguing? Are they fighting? No, they're just having fun and getting to know each other and sharing, how they've been doing. So, and I think an advantage for you, if you're especially moving to Tanzania, for example, you've got to learn Swahili. You really have to, because that is an official language over there. And the difference is that in Kenya, for example, the official language is English, and national language is Swahili. So knowing Kiswahili, if you're going to places like Tanzania, is almost really mandatory. So, and I did talk about YouTube channels. There's so many of them that teach Swahili. I wouldn't want to commit myself to teaching it because there's already people doing it. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, in Africa, parents discipline their children. Schools still discipline their students. So that is a very different thing over here. You cannot, can't slap a baby or whatever. It's a different concept here. But back in Africa, it's still happening. And it's not, it's not violence. It's not taken too far. So it's still discipline. So apart from language, I would encourage you to study the culture, spirituality of the people where you're going. That way you don't offend anyone. Remember, when you go to Africa, have an open mind, because you will find a culture that you're not used to, and it might be offensive to you. You just have to have an open mind and find out, how do people greet each other? How do people dress when going to certain places? That will be good information to know. So you can reach out to networks and social media groups, and you might be able to connect with one or two people that you can ask questions. And just get the information, as much information as possible. Remember, it will take time before you gather all the information you need. So the earlier you start your research, the better. It might even take you 1 to 2 years preparing, if you are planning to go, to be actually ready. I know some people just all of a sudden just decide, I've had enough of being abroad and I'm going back to motherland. There are very few people like that, but there are people who actually take their time to prepare. And the best way to prepare, if you could, just plan a visit, at least 2 to 3 visits, maybe 1, 2, to be able to see what it's like and to have a feel for Africa. So it is really recommended that you plan a visit before you actually move. So plan 2 or 3 visits. If you want to check out different countries, maybe 2 or 3 more countries, plan a visit. That will give you a good feel of what you want. And also, if you have your questions that you need answered, have those questions answered. Go ask the Uber drivers, the taxi drivers. Even if you go to the hotels, talk to the receptionists or the workers there. They will answer most of those questions for you. Also, when you're starting a business abroad, do your research, find out what is it that you want to do. Is there a market for it? Or is this something that you've already been doing? It's easier to start a business of something that you've already been doing. For example, if you have an online business, obviously you can do it from anywhere. Kenya, for example, has very good internet, so you can be able to continue doing it. If you have a business, it has to be something that you've already been doing. So you already have a customer base and business structure, and you're just extending or actually opening like a different branch in Africa. That way you have income coming in from the business that you was already doing to continue doing it in Africa. So there are many, there's a learning curve, obviously, for everything. There's a learning curve for the language, the culture, the place. Also, our vehicles are driven on the opposite side of America, for example. We drive on the left side, the steering is on the opposite side. So it's a learning curve. It will take you time to get used to driving in Africa. Also, the African drivers are very aggressive, especially the public transport system. The drivers are very aggressive, so it will take time for you to get used to navigating in the city. And we do have traffic lights, but most drivers don't follow them. So that is a disadvantage again. You know, people don't follow the traffic lights, so it's kind of a disadvantage and a negative that I find back home. It's very peaceful. We don't have violence, like I said in my previous video. There's no police brutality, and that is one thing that is making most African Americans want to move back to motherland, because it's peaceful. They are tired of being run down and being discriminated and being murdered. So that is one disadvantage of being in Africa, is that you have peace. Also, we don't curse a lot. We don't really actually curse. You know, these F words and B words and N words, AH words, they are not in Africa. So, as in my country, it's almost impossible to hear somebody cursing somebody out. There are sometimes the women get mad at each other and they call each other names, but on a general rule, it's not easy to find people just fighting or cussing each other out. That is not common behavior in Africa. You will not hear the N word, and if any African is using the N word, that is something they are learning from the media, because the media wants to portray African Americans as being aggressive and violent, which is not okay. So no African should be using the N-word. That is not your place. I do know that there are still African Americans using it as a fun way to call each other, which is really not good, because it's encouraging people to continue using it, and we really need to drop it. So everything is all about learning and just having an open mind and making things work for you, because it's about you. The whole journey is really about you. Hospitals are not free. You have to pay. So if you do have insurance, there's some insurance that can work over there. You can, of course, get your own insurance while you're there. I'm not familiar with which ones you can get, but I'm sure there are people who are there that can answer those questions for you. Education is not free, especially if you want to go to expensive schools or private schools. We do have very good schools. The school system is awesome. So you can do private public schools or Montessori schools if that's what you want to do. The Christianity is huge. A lot of people are Christians. We do have a good amount of Islams and Hindu, but Christianity is huge. People walk a lot, you know. Not everybody drives a car. So a lot of people walk to work and walk to the farm or whatever. A lot of people use bicycles and motorbikes. So that's a good thing that we are able to walk, and you know, walking is good for us, right? Just know that whatever the media has portrayed Africa to be is completely not true. Africa is more modern than people think, and the best way to do is to actually visit. And also follow these YouTubers I talked about. Wodemaya has covered extensively a lot of African countries. So I would recommend you really do research on your own. The media is not doing Africa a favor at all. So do your own research. People are very friendly. People are polite, humble, and you know, they're pleasant. They are welcoming. So you will be treated well as a guest. And the one thing I don't like is that the brainwashing and the conditioning of our African people by the oppressor. You know, most people give favors to the white people more than the black people. Like, if you show up with a white person, they probably will get better service than you, which is something that we have to change, honestly. It's not fair to ourselves, and it's not looking good for us. So that is one thing that that I would say we need to change. So, like, if you go to Africa, it would be recommended you have an extra phone. That phone, you will have to buy. For example, if you have an extra phone, you will need to buy a SIM card that you can use to use on your phone. Some people actually can use the same phone and you know, remove your American SIM card and put in the African card. But we do have roaming. For example, if you want to use your US line, you still can use it, except that you will be charged roaming. So we do recommend you download a WhatsApp account that allows you to do chats and video calls or you know, phone calls or video calls to your people abroad. So WhatsApp is what most Africans use. You still can roam like SMS on your American line, but if you're going to Kenya, for example, everybody's using M-Pesa for payments, and that is serviced by Safaricom. So you will need to buy a Safaricom SIM card and get a line that you can use in Kenya for calls and also payments. So that is something to keep in mind. The banks allow you to use a Visa card or MasterCard, which is mostly accepted, so you can still continue using your Visa and MasterCard. I would recommend that you make sure to let your bank know you're traveling, because sometimes when they see charges abroad, they might lock up your card. They done that to me. So the thing is, you have to let them know you'll be traveling. That way you can use your card in the ATMs on your way. Maybe if you're passing through Europe, you still can use your card in Europe, and when you go to Africa, you're able to use it. But just let them know. And also your phone company, make sure they know that you're traveling. That way they don't lock you out. So as far as our hair salons, we have plenty of hair salons, barber shops. They do an awesome job, and you can get as much service as you would like. Okay. I'm trying to look at my notes and seeing what I'm missing. If you want gyms, we do have many gyms. Most of them come together with the hotel. We do have standalone gyms that you can attend. If you want to be a member, you can be a member, but we do have those. We have swimming pools, extensive amounts of, you know, spas if you are interested. If you're visiting Mombasa, Malindi, Lamu, Kilifi, all those areas at the coast of Kenya or in Tanzania, you have access to the Indian Ocean on the eastern coast of Africa and enjoy the beaches. We have beautiful beaches, we have beautiful food and beautiful entertainment that you can enjoy. The food markets are open. You can we do have plenty of open food markets that you can go to. You don't just have to go to the supermarket to buy vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. We do have open markets and kiosks. We also do have curio shops for ornaments and things that you might want, like souvenirs. Those are made by our people, the Kamba community, the Maasai. They are very good at creating this stuff. The Kikuyu, I believe, are also good at carving, but the Kambas are the number one. They're very good carvers. So if you can go to the curio shops, you can buy the souvenirs. But when you go to the malls, these curios are very expensive. So we always encourage people to visit Maasai Market, where they can get curios and souvenirs at a cheaper price than if you are going to the mall. We do have very modernized malls, huge malls, where you can buy, you know, boutiques, you can buy shoes and clothing that are, you know, most are imported, some are made locally, but they are priced higher. A lot of tourists and local, international guests frequent these malls, and obviously their prices are higher, but we do have them, and there's plenty of them right now, which shows that Kenya is getting really upscale, and a lot of people are coming from abroad to live or visit Kenya. The transport system, people do use the buses. We do have a train service, but most people use the bus system. And we do also have the smaller vehicles we call matatus. And we have Nissan Transport, where the vehicles are built differently. So if you want music in the vehicles, if you want to have a good time while traveling, we do have vehicles that are made for that. As the young people love them because they have like, it feels like a disco in there. So it's up to you how you want to travel. So most houses have compounds that are you know, fenced out with stone for security purposes, and there is a gate. So make sure you don't cross paths, you don't just enter people's compounds. There's high security, you know, just because we have some people who have bad intentions. So you'll find that most houses have a big fence and a gate, and some people have the security system over there. So just to know that, I've had people complain about the mosquito. Yes, we do have a mosquito issue, and that is because of you know, standing water or stagnant waters. So what people do is they do have a mosquito net over their beds, and sometimes they have a net at the window or door to prevent mosquitoes from coming in. So make sure you do that. And some people do take prevention from mosquitoes, from malaria. So there is malaria prevention medicine that you can take to make sure that you don't get malaria when you are visiting the tropics. So like I said in my previous video, the home system is a woman's, you know, that is our job. We do the cleaning and the cooking mostly. But when you go to the restaurants, actually mostly is the men cooking. So they do know how to cook. It's just that the Kenyan culture, or rather most African countries, I believe, cooking and home management is mainly the ladies' job. So I do hope I've answered somebody's question or two. And I will continue with this as I listen and feel that if I feel like there's something that I didn't cover, I will do a video on it, and we keep it moving. So leave a comment below if you have any question. Ask the question or contribute to the channel by saying something that I missed or something that I forgot. And also subscribe and like the video. Share.